with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertainment. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? Here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Hello, friends. It is time once again. We're back on Monday. Hashtag Real Race Talk. It is the Revved Up Sports Show. We are in Texas.
Friends, it is time once
Down
again.
south,
We're back on
it is
Monday.
showtime. Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez up north.
Up Sports Show. We are in Texas.
As we, boy, that guy sounds sexy.
Showtime, Bobby Chaffee.
That dude sounds sexy, whoever that is.
Yeah, I finally got it working. There we go. Took a minute.
We're back going once again after a week off, but back on Monday. In a programming note, as you probably saw on Facebook, we had Gina Scheil Knows that was supposed to be on with us. She is in pursuit of getting to Mobile. Traffic's horrible. I called her a while ago to confirm some stuff, and she's like, so we're gonna put that off. We ain't doing that. We ain't doing that today. So anyway, we'll reschedule that. We'll do something on Wednesday and get all of that going. Bobby, how you doing, man? Day off for you? I mean, you ready for the snow's coming, buddy? The snow is coming, so they say. So they say it's coming again.
It probably hits your area up in Round Rock closer than it'll hit mine.
It's supposed to be west. It's supposed to be west this time.
So I don't know, dude. As long as we don't get the snowvid effect that we had last year with a week worth of rain and snow with, feet of snow as we did without power and water and all of that good stuff, I'll be okay with the little light dusting of snow this time. But as long as we don't have it always gets real cold. One or two cold snaps, kind of icy snaps around my birthday. Got a couple of weeks to go for my birthday, so not surprising to see one, if not two more little cold snaps, little weather issues.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, friends, and I do want to talk about before we get to that, we have to celebrate a special birthday. We posted it yesterday on the Facebook page. It was a great happy birthday to one of the best, Super Tex AJ Foyt. One of the best that we've ever seen out of Texas. I just love playing this clip, and I'm sorry if you are religious and your ears hurt and you don't like cussing and you don't want to have the Lord's name in vain, but happy birthday to the one and only great Super Tex AJ Foyt.
Thus far this year, but let me tell you, you're looking at the best, the grand champion.
Goddamn track.
Vintage
AJ, it was Jeff Andretti that got... Well, yeah, he's all over the goddamn track. You don't know where the hell he's going. And there was suspension problem that... I kept from knocking him through the goddamn wall. I'm tired of this shit. Got people out there that shouldn't even be in the goddamn race car.
Woohoo!
Well, you talk about emotion.
AJ Foyt, man. Only one AJ Foyt with... Dude, it was, Tony Stewart is great. And, I mean, we've got some great Tony Stewart sound bites that we played on this show before. But, man, there is truly only one AJ freaking Foyt.
It really is. He was able to put it in ways that made people understand how simplified that it needed to be. But, what is he now, 88, I think now? 80-something. He's getting up there. But he's still as sharp as a tack, and he'll tell you how it is and everything else. So... happy birthday to Super Tex there, and one of these days we'll find a way to get him on our show.
Still a goal to have him on here. And I had a friend, I had a mutual friend that had reached out to AJ, and I thought we had him. I thought we had him about a year ago, but AJ's exact comments were, "I don't have time for them shitheads." I don't know if he's listened before, but
fair enough. Hey,
to be called a shithead by AJ Foyt, I'm good.
That's good. That's a good sign, right? Maybe he has listened before.
Yeah, that is really good. So
he used to go to H&P all the time.
I know.
Used to tell me after the fact, he'd sit down there in that lower section underneath the tower, or the lower section of the tower. He'd go down there and watch the race. He'd just sit down there in peace and watch it. And I was kind of surprised they never told me. I mean, I just wanted to go down and say hello. You know, not let the crowd know he's there. Hell, I just wanted to go down and be selfish and say hello. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. And then go back up to start announcing
Just
back up again.
Go hang out. And great call right there by Rusty Cobb. I mean, Jeff Andretti did drive for him later. And I mean, you had the great moments. I mean, and it's like now in the YouTube age, you had the stuff with Ari Leyendijk. You know, he slaps Ari Leyendijk in the middle of next week. I mean, you had all of that. But I mean, the good stuff with AJ, I mean, it just goes so far back. And I remember the 82 500 where he gets out, starts working on his car after Coogan took them all out and everything right there. But just so many moments and so many times that somewhere I have to find it. I know it's at my dad's house in Lockhart. I have an AJ Foyt 45 record that we bought at Texas World Speedway. And there's an AJ Foyt song on there. So what I want to do is, and there's an interview with him. It's a great interview on side A. Side B was an AJ Foyt song. My wife has, I bought her a turntable. I'm going to bring it to the studio, and we're going to play that AJ song at some point because it's a really good song. It was AJ Foyt, will always know his name, from the Racing Hall of Fame. I forget what it is, but we're going to play that 45, and we'll show a picture. One of the best ever. AJ Foyt. That's the guys, Bobby, you've talked about it. When folks wanted to be race car drivers, it was because of Indy cars and AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti and those guys. It wasn't stock cars. Mm-hmm. It was those dudes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in the Texas area that wanted to grow up and be a race car driver, they wanted to be a badass like AJ Foyt, and they wanted to be as smooth as Mario Andretti. Mm-hmm. Johnny Rutherford was able to sneak in there and get a few people to, but not he didn't have that polarizing aspect that AJ Foyt had. Rutherford was a good dude, fantastic race car driver, awesome guy. You got a chance to I don't know, did you get a chance to meet him during that Texas World deal?
I didn't get to meet him. I was hoping that I was going to get to meet him. And the funny backstory behind that, it was actually going to be JR, AJ, and I, and Junior, all at once. But the snowstorm played havoc with all of that. I mean, everything kind of fell apart right there. But I mean, for me to sit with Junior, to sit with Foyt, Rutherford, and Junior, I'd have probably pissed my pants.
That's some high company there.
Mm-hmm.
All Hall of Famers in their own right.
Me too.
Junior's popping up in the Hall of Fame there. I mean, at some point you'll get into the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Shame. The Hall of Shame is what I will be in. Bobby, a lot of folks, speaking of Hall of Fame, people have asked me, and again, no Gina, but we do have Ben Rowe at 7:15. So we're freestyling. We are freestyling right here up until we get going with that. And so folks have asked why we don't start a Texas. I know there's a Texas Racing Hall of Fame. I know there's one at TMS. But I've had a lot of folks that asked me, and actually somebody that reached out and was really talking some serious stuff about it, about starting a Texas Short Track Racing Hall of Fame. I think that you think that would go over well. I think we'd have to find a nice place to do it, a nice neutral spot. But man, I think that'd be pretty cool.
I think it'd have to be. It's been talked about for years. You and I have mutually talked about it forever. We've had people talk to us about it forever. I think that the way that you'd have to do it is, I don't think it would be sustainable enough to have its own standalone type of building, its own standalone type of deal. It'd have to be more like, for lack of a better way to describe it, the WWE Hall of Fame, where there's just profiles on a website. And profiles that they have on an entire Hall of Fame section for the WWE. There's no physical stuff to see. You don't get to go see merchandise. You don't get to go see race cars, whatever the case may be. I mean, I think if you're able to have a Hall of Fame like that, you know, it'd have to be completely virtual. You'd have pictures of cars and stuff like that. But is it possible? Sure. I think it's possible if you do an induction. The problem is two things. One, how many do you let in the first class? Without alienating a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
And then who do you get to vote on it?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. I mean, because I know we do, promoter of the year and driver of the year and all of that. But I mean, that's right now. I mean, to really go back and try to dig this thing apart and induct people in, I think it'd be a challenge, and it would be people that would get left out. And I mean, I'm assuming you would start with AJ Foyt. I mean, because he was a guy that he did. I mean, he honed his skills right here, racing around here. But I mean, we can sit back here and just go I mean, so many. I mean, we talked about fan vote. Yeah, that would be a good. But the fan vote thing, the fan vote is where it gets a little sketchy right there, because the fan vote, they're gonna go more to the new stuff because there's not a lot of folks that, when you think about Jimmy Finger and HB Bailey, and I mean all of this. I mean, this is where like Joe Dan. We would need to incorporate Joe Dan Bailey. We would need some real. I don't want to say old timers, but we would need guys that have been around this crap forever. I mean, Jim Pallas would be a good dude that we could get in there and let them.
Ray Scott.
Yeah, Ray Scott. I mean, let them mess with it. And Bobby, you haven't been here to the studio, but I have transferred the VHS is now in the studio now. So we can actually watch some of that old school stuff now. And that's how I've been doing some of that crap at the end of the week. But it's right over there. Right over there.
Oh, nice. Right there underneath the other TV in the studio.
Yeah. You thought it was cluttered before. You ought to see it now. But, I mean, really good stuff. I mean, I think it would be a really great thing and a location. And that's one of the things, talking about Heart of Texas Speedway, where I think that they are just so, and again, they can do it because they've been around for 55 years, 56 coming up, where they have their own Hall of Fame because there have been so many people that have wheeled through that place. I think that, and that's a great, that's a great trifecta right there that Marty checks in, AJ Foyt, Terry Labonte, Doug Ingalls, but I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, where would you set the precedent? I mean, do you go with 3? Do you go with 6? It's like the freaking college football playoff. I mean, because we could have so many. I mean, I would think you'd put Rick Rapp in there. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot.
The only way you could do it is if you had the Texas Hall of Fame. You could do a short track asphalt Hall of Fame and a short track dirt track Hall of Fame. You could house them in the same unit and induct 3 and 3 each year.
Yeah.
That'd be a way to make it happen, but it takes a lot when you have to come through the precedent and everything else.
Yeah. Chili Bowl is the question right there. We'll get to that here in just a second, but I do want to explain the shirt. I mean, I know Bobby's in his gear. I always am as well, but look, I've got this on because I want to thank all of you, and many of you that watch this program for checking in on my mental health today with all of your great memes and GIFs or GIFs or whatever the hell you call them. All of these great things that all of you wonderful people have sent me regarding the Dallas Cowboys. And I've had a few of you smart asses that it's like, okay, who are you going for now? I'm still going for Dallas. I'm still a Cowboy fan. I've got a light out in the yard that was gifted to me for Christmas. One of those things, one of them strobe things, you can do the Christmas things, Bobby, where you've got the whatever, the Halloween, you could put a skeleton. Somebody gave me a cowboy thing. I ain't taking that shit down. I am not taking it down. I am leaving it out there. I'm still a Cowboy fan. Tried and true. I don't care. I'm a glutton for punishment, man. Did I know that was going to happen yesterday? Yep. I called it. It was a bad matchup, and we shit the bed yet again. But I don't care. I'm still wearing it. It's my team, man. It is my team. You know how it is, Bobby. I mean, you
right now.
I mean, I don't care. I haven't quit by now. I've got a couple of other teams that I like. I mean, I like the Titans, because they were the Oilers. Seattle's kind of cool because they have badass looking uniforms or whatever, but I'm a Cowboy fan. I don't give a shit.
I mean, I'm a Texan fan. Sometimes I claim to be, but I'm a pretty diehard Texan fan. I never really leave the train when the train leaves the station, even though it's heading towards a dumpster fire. But, hey, we get to pick third in the draft. That's good to know. Yeah,
and the whole thing is, I mean, I don't care. I mean, it has been a comedy of errors since 1996. And are we going to be back at some point? I don't know. The problem's at the top. I love Jerry Jones. Charlotte Jones is amazing. Stephen Jones, they do a great job. Here's my whole thought on this. The Dallas Cowboys right now are fixated on being America's team and being the whole persona of that selling. I've said this for a long time. We'll get back to racing at some point. We'll talk about the Chili Bowl. They're all about selling stadium tours. They're all about selling gear. They're all about doing all of this other stuff and overpaying a mutual friend of ours, Bobby, that we talk to on Saturdays has told us about Zeke Elliott. I mean, what a hard time he is having right now. I got a text from that dude, by the way, not Zeke, but our buddy today.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure y'all were talking about.
Oh yeah, and it's tough, but I mean, it's just not there. It's just not there right now. The football is secondary. The football is secondary, and that's what happens with the Dallas Cowboys. But I don't care. I'm tried and true. It's all I've ever known. And I tweeted out today. I'm like, man, I ain't even pissed. I'm used to it. I'm not even mad anymore. I was mad last night, but I'm done. I'm over it.
You'd be more upset if they made it through this first round and then shit to bed the second round.
Absolutely. Well, but it'd have been, the Packers, I guess, and that would I don't know. It's going to be some fun playoffs. This game tonight's going to be great. But do the Cowboys win next year? Of course they do. I've said that for the last 27 years. We win next year.
Maybe.
Do you realize?
As long as they can win the division every year. That much is pretty easy.
Well, Bobby, you and I and about 5 friends could win that division. we could throw some kind of team together and go out there and win that division. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. But do you realize, and this puts it in perspective, the Cowboys have not been to the Super Bowl since they trained in Austin at St. Ed's.
Maybe they need to come back to Austin. Or move the Super Bowl back to the Rose Bowl.
Something. I don't know. But, I mean, talk about offensive, defensive coordinators. I mean, all of that. I don't know what the deal is, but it's just same old thing. Just another year. Chili Bowl. Okay, so let's get to that. But I'm wearing this. I don't care. I wore it yesterday. It still stinks. Smelled like beer, where I was dropping beer all over myself, crying in my tear in my beer and my rear at the end of that game. Chili Bowl. I didn't get to see... I was following along. I don't have the privilege of having MAV TV or KView, but so your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on that? I saw a lot of discussion about the transition over from Flow to MAV. I don't know if you saw it on Flow or not, but your thoughts on that whole presentation?
I thought it was pretty normal for the presentation as itself. I did notice some technical snafus when they were trying to switch from camera to camera. You could see some of the transitions weren't quite there where they needed to be. There were some black screens and catching up on some stuff like that. I still think the biggest problem that they have is the transition into the main event.
Yeah. Because
the track prep takes so much longer when you get into those C mains. We estimated on Saturday that the damn A main would start about 10:15. Damn A main didn't start till 11:30.
That's my point, because I was following on the Race Pass, on the My Race Pass thing, and I kept waiting. And you messaged me, and we were, you had Supercross going on at the same time, and it's like back and forth. What's going to happen here? I was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm sorry. I mean, that I don't give a shit if you're on Flow Sports or on MAV TV. All of that just takes so long. And I mean, what do you do during that time? I mean, you can only break this race down in so many different ways. And that long delay. I mean, that's where, for the dirt folks that want to beat up on asphalt, when we're sitting there and going round and round under caution flag and stalling for time and all this, that, and the other, you ain't no different. You're doing the same thing.
I think what they need to do is try to incorporate, instead of going to that recap of the whole alphabet soup for the week that they went through before during the transition between the C main and the B mains, I think that's where they need to concentrate more on the driver introductions. That's the one thing I noticed is they waited until the track prep was finished to actually do the introductions of the drivers.
Yeah.
And they didn't even go across the stage this time. Like, they used to come out of the hot pit underneath that little inflatable tunnel, and they'd introduce them that way. This time they brought them all to the infield and then brought them up to the stage when they did the driver introductions that way. They waited till the track prep was done to do that. That's a good time to kill some time, is when they're doing the track prep, bring the drivers out before they bring the tillers out to try to redo it, and then kind of do it that way. But that was such a long... It was even worse last year. Another buddy and I were texting about the delay, and it's like we were having this exact same conversation last year, and I felt like this year lasted even longer than last year waiting. It was like it had to be a good solid hour between the B mains to the driver introductions to the start of the A main.
Yeah, and that's where I go back to. I mean, is it detrimental to be on MAV TV or just leave it on the stream? And there's so many different aspects to all of this, and this is where let's bring the NASCAR factor into this, because everything that we had, JKD was on our Saturday show, and just great insight that she was giving us there, being there, and just, so many years that she's been a part of that with her family owned team and everything that they've done. But it, to me, a lot of the run that we're getting with the Chili Bowl from some of the outside stuff is they're going the NASCAR influence, and we've talked about this. Remember the days of San Antonio when Harry Gant and Labonte and all these guys would come run the late models and do all this stuff. This very much, as people don't want to embrace the NASCAR stuff, NASCAR is really influencing events like this, because we're talking about Christopher Bell, we're talking about Ricky Stenhouse, we're talking about all these. Rico Abreu was coming up in this, but he's recognized by the NASCAR people. I just think that you're really seeing the NASCAR feel and IndyCar feel on this race, on this whole event.
We had Santino Ferrucci do a couple of flips, added to the flip count on that deal. I don't think that the race itself, I don't think that the Cup drivers move the needle that much. The guys that are not doing it, like Kyle Larson and them, move the meter already because they're dirt guys, right? So does Christopher Bell. Doesn't matter whether they show up to the Chili Bowl or show up into just some major short track racing event, they're going to move the needle that way. Chase Elliott, while he brings the mainstream coverage with him in terms of moving the needle because of the NASCAR fans that come there, what happens is because of the involvement, and there's really only 6 or 7 NASCAR guys that are at the Chili Bowl, maybe 10 tops, a major name brand. Now, there's a couple of guys that may run some Xfinity Series races and some Cup races that may try to make it that you don't hear a lot about, like even Ryan Newman. Didn't have a good solid run this year like he did. I didn't see Justin Allgaier running this year, but you had Bowman. You had 3 of the 4 Hendrick guys racing. I think William Byron was off running go-karts down in Daytona, but they, those guys, the coverage is there. We talk about it all the time on NASCAR Sirius XM. They cover 2 non-NASCAR related races every season. The Snowball Derby and the Chili Bowl. In fact, the Chili Bowl winner will probably start being on the air here in the next couple of days if he hadn't been on there already, because I didn't get to catch it because I had the day off.
Yeah, Tanner Thorson wins that race. He had a great battle there with Christopher Bell, and I mean he beats Bell, and it's a career race for him. I mean, because that's a dude that he works on his own stuff, and when you really do, I mean, we talk about Josh Berry and guys that are that's going to pull the heartstrings for race fans. I mean, Thorson's one of these guys where he's done it the hard way, and he goes in, he breaks in, and he wins that race, and that's the biggest win of his career. He's going to be etched in forever, winning the Golden Driller, and I mean, that's a huge thing. You beat Christopher Bell, but we throw the NASCAR effect in there. Folks talking about Larson. Is he going to win again? Is he going to win for the 3rd time in a row? I mean, is Bell going to win for the 4th time? I mean, it was all of this. All of this was going on. Other than Kaylee Bryson, and that's by all means not a small feat, that was a great headline grab for her to win, because I mean it hadn't happened for a lady in 36 years or whatever it was. But you go back and you look at all the coverage, mainstream coverage, it's about the NASCAR guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it'll stay that way for a long time. As far as it being on MAP TV, as long as it's sponsored by Lucas Oil, it's going to be on MAP TV. I get that Flow Racing does all the stuff in terms of the preliminary stuff and the alphabet soup all week. That's fine, but the A main's always going to be on MAP TV as long as it says Lucas Oil. Yeah, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Yeah. But did you hear all the conversation about the big screen going into turn number 1?
I didn't hear that.
They're gonna move the screen that's in turn number 1 because apparently the drivers were looking up at the screen to see where their competitors were racing. That's what I was going to ask you when I raced. Especially when we raced down there at CTS, Thunderhill, whatever you want to call it, I would look at the board maybe 3 or 4 times a race to kind of see where I was running, because they had the top 5 up on the board. I don't know about you, because you ran Kyle, and then you also ran San Antonio, and it's hard to look at the scoreboard up in San Antonio going in the turns, but apparently down at Chili Bowl, the guys were looking at the competition and determined whether or not they needed to run the high line or the low line to try to block. So now next year they're going to move the TV over to turn number 2. Oh, well, I can definitely see that happening, because I can tell you at Kyle, especially in the dwarf car, I mean, as that car got faster and faster and faster, I mean, you're
dead. I mean, as low as that car was, you're looking straight up at that thing. I mean, even in practice, I would sit there. I mean, you could watch lap times. You could sit there and watch yourself kind of move up or down that board right there with the top 5. But yeah, I mean, I did that a lot. I mean, I would do that a lot in the little car to kind of figure out, especially leading. I mean, if you would zip past the start finish line and get through 1 and 2, and you still didn't see the second number come up, you kind of had an idea. Okay, I got a half a second. So I can definitely see where that would be a factor. But why move it? I mean, to me that adds to the intensity right there. I mean, that's stupid.
I don't know. That's the big story coming out of the Chili Bowls. They're going to move the screen. Among all the things to talk about, that's the biggest story coming out of the Chili Bowl right now, other than Tanner Thorson winning. But yeah, he definitely had some raw emotions. It was one of those where winning that race that big, you don't know what to say, but he really didn't know what to say when they're putting that live mic in his face.
Yeah, and that's great for him. Like we were talking about. I mean, for a dude like that to win, I mean that's what it's all about. And to be able to win that race with that caliber of competitor that you had there, I mean, that's good stuff. That is really good stuff. You also had the Wild West Shootout out there in New Mexico. I know our friend Steve Sims and all of that bunch were down there. Man, I thought Garrett Albertson might win that one, but Mike Marlar wins that one in that big event right there. Rodney Sanders wins in the modifieds, and it's just so cool to me that it just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop because we're almost to the point. We're almost to the point where, I mean, the World Series is coming up, and dude, we're just clicking it off. We're just getting started right now.
Well, we always say that the unofficial start to the racing season is Anaheim #1. Now, granted, there's some short track stuff that happens here and there. We saw some racing in Florida that happened with some super late model races and different Wheelman Series stuff and all of that. But realistically, your mainstream stuff, all your mainstream stuff gets kicked off with the same time as Anaheim 1. This Wild West Shootout they ran there at Vado Speedway Park. That's a beautiful facility. I passed by that this past November. When I had the chance to go down to the UTEP versus UTSA game. Beautiful facility right there off of Interstate 10, basically right in between Las Cruces and El Paso.
Yeah.
So beautiful facility to hold that. They had the streaming service all week, stuff along that. Speaking of streaming service, the one thing we didn't talk about on Saturday. We didn't talk about it last week because we were off.
Yeah.
XR buying the STLMS series. That's a good get for XR.
Dude. And did you see? I think they've got an iStock series that's going to back that up. That is huge right there. And those guys, I mean, we're partial to all of them. I mean, anything that's going to help support racing. That's pretty massive right there for them to put that together. And those late models, we have talked to so many guys on here, the times that we've talked to Johnny and all the different race promoters. I think those late models, if you can get somebody in there that's going to be able to build that series and really grow it, I think that that's the sleeping giant right there. You've got the modifieds are great, factory stocks, out of this world, sport mods, limited modifieds, or whatever you want to call them. There hasn't been anyone yet that has been able to take that late model series and really bloom it. And those damn XR people, they seem to do really, really good things. Barry Braun and that group. I think they may have found their footing with those late models right there.
Well, I think they finally found a magic formula. Running that weekly series up at TMS helped out a lot.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of people in the stands? No, they lost their ass on that deal.
It's tough.
Were they able to make it up on the streaming? Sure, they tried to break a little bit even on the streaming. But I think running that weekly series, you got to see what moved the needle.
Yep.
And it looked like the late models are especially at TMS on that big half mile or 4/10 mile, whatever you want to call it, that big old track. The late models are ones that move the needle on that because you can tell they belong on there. Watching no disrespect to the dwarf cars, that track's a little big for dwarf cars. Track's a little big for the Hornets, the 4-cylinder Hornets, but the late models and even the big modified, that they belong on that big old half mile.
Yeah. And I think this is a great opportunity for them to go in, them being XR, to really go in. And I mean, they're keeping, the points of contact right there that have been the ones that have, with the South Texas late model series that have gone in and really done some good stuff right there. And I think it's a situation where the late model, the dirt late models, I mean, they're wanting something. They're wanting something like this, and they're going to support it. And when you get those folks that are really going to drive this series together, the hardest part is, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with Gina, is, and we will do that here later in the week, is the promotion part and pushing this to the masses and to get people to show up. I mean, that's the hardest part. I mean, to those of us that like going to the racetrack and we love, late models or pavement or whatever it may be, we're the easy ones. But you have to go get those other people that are not going to do it unless you go and find them. And I think this is going to be where XR is going to do a really good job just by pushing this shit down people's throat to get them to go to the races or get them to buy, memberships or get them to buy single event purchases. I don't know how that works, but I think that it finally is going to work out for those late models.
I think it finally will. Cody did a great job with what he had.
Sure he did.
Limited resources for sure, but now that you've got the extra resources with XR, the ability to promote to a whole other thing. The advantage that a late model has over some of your normal racing stuff is that we even see it from a track level. I mean, when the DFW late models used to come to go to Heart of Texas Speedway, they got promoted as a big deal because they were a big deal
Sure.
touring series.
Sure.
Same thing that XR is going to do is because you can catch somebody at a local level and have them come out. There's a reason why the World Outlaw race sells out at Cotton Bowl. They run more than one open wheel wing sprint car series division at Cotton Bowl throughout the year.
That's right.
But the World Outlaw sells that place out and then some.
Yeah. And that's where I've been so amazed with Waco last year because they would do, it's just so funny what they do. And again, the visibility there coming off of 35 and just the place. I mean, it's a place that you want to be. But we would finish a show on Friday. The next week, the Bandit Outlaw Sprints, whatever, they were coming. By the time I left that place, by the time I went, said hi to a bunch of friends, on the marquee, sprint cars with the Friday date. And they would show up. And the same thing with late models. I mean, when the late models were coming, boom, date, late models. And they brought them in. And that's and they've updated that sign, by the way. They've gotten them a brand new one there. And speaking of that, I mean, coming up on February 5th, you got the Big Chill Enduro 250 at Waco. And again, that's where Waco is just doing such a great job. And by the time we get all these dates filled and late models traveling across the state of Texas, I think it's going to be great. And now with the changes that we have going on, Marianne and H, they're at Cotton Bowl, their schedule is out and they're doing what they're going to do. The 37 schedule is out. Texana's out. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen at the South Texas Race Ranch. And I think that late models zooming across the state of Texas, dude, that is freaking massive.
That'd be fun. A lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Texana and South Texas Race Ranch, it was in their schedules a little bit, but I think it got more in depth today when the ASCS Elite Non-Wing Sprint Car Series announced their schedule today, put it out a little earlier today, like the official one that had everybody on it. Locally, Edna is going to be on Friday, April 29th, and South Texas Race Ranch there in Corpus is going to be Saturday, April 30th, a back-to-back race weekend there with the non-wing elite sprint cars. So that should be a really damn good doubleheader right there.
Man, that is awesome to have that back-to-back right there. And I think that's the beauty of with Owen being able to have that the two tracks right there. I think that he's going to be able to capitalize on different opportunities like that to go back-to-back, because that gets back to the whole on the pavement side. That gets back to the whole, Mobile Pensacola thing, where if you're going to go back to back, I mean, you've got mileage there. I mean, it's a lot of miles, I guess, but it's not really a lot of miles. And that's where you can really dig in, run a great Friday night show, do a Saturday night show. And it's going to be, I mean, he's been working on this for a long time, he being Owen. And I think that I'm proud of him, because this is going to be something where I think he is going to radically change racing in along the southern part of Texas.
I think he will. I think he's already done it, right? He moved the needle to where he was able to take over Edna and create a good racing atmosphere down there, and showed that the market there was able to accept the racetrack, and his market came from everywhere else.
Yeah.
But they, I don't know, man, in terms of being able to run, you're going to be more effective trying to get those bigger series running back to back. You see a lot of times,
right? Yeah.
Just because of the fact it's really not, like you said, it's not that far from Edna to Corpus. It's 2 hours from everywhere. And so for those teams to race on a Friday night, turn around and go to get 2 hours down the road to Corpus on a Saturday night, I mean, it makes sense. It makes logistical sense for the race teams. It makes logistical sense for the race fan to follow along and catch a doubleheader that weekend.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, I mean, the way that all lays out, I mean, you can stay midway between there. I mean, find a place, you know, whether it be in Sinton or, stay in Corpus. I mean, whatever the deal is. It's just more the word conducive for those back-to-back shows, where I think that's something that it's going to really work out nice for them. But I think that the sky's the limit for, I think this as well. You know, we talked about it briefly on the Saturday show for Cotton Bowl. Once we get rolling here into March, you've got the third and fourth or fourth and fifth, whatever it is. You got the Texas two-step there for the World of Outlaws, and it's a brand new year for them. You're going to have that going on. Then you have that big late model show coming in. So Cotton Bowl's jumping in, where the month of March, weather permitting, is going to be something where I think they're really going to put a footprint down and. When you talk about, because like with H and Marianne, you know, they've had their struggles and they continue to have them. But I think that, what are we in here? Year 4 or 5, whatever it is for them running that place.
At least 4.
Yeah. I think this is the year. I think this is the year where they can really, man, they especially starting out with that March schedule, they can jump in here and people are going to put eyeballs on this place and say, holy shit. This Cotton Bowl place is really, really nice. They run an efficient show, but this is where, like we're talking about with the Chili Bowl thing you were talking about, this is where when we start watching World of Outlaws and the late models that are going to come in, your weekly show starts. You got to be as efficient as they were doing. Yeah,
absolutely. We saw how efficient the show was at Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
There for the World of Outlaws. I was about to say World of Late Models. But with the schedule coming up, you got the World of Outlaw stuff with a couple of support classes there. I think it's factory stocks one night and sport mods the next night.
Yep.
Then you got that big 3-day show there with the late models, and I'm assuming XR is going to cover that whole thing since it's some kind of big late model challenge. I think it's an XR deal. It was.
That'll be.
It
fun.
was. That'll help out Cotton Bowl for sure.
That'll be fun because our buddies also cover that track.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun too.
We might have to go view that.
I may have to go do that in person, but the problem is it's either the weekend before or weekend after my anniversary. It's kind of hard to go to the racetrack, you know, when you're told you need to go somewhere else because it's your anniversary. Yeah. You know how that works. Every married dude knows how that works.
I just go. I make an excuse. Yeah. They need me. And that's where I have a great wife, because I'm like, they need me, and she's like, okay, you go. So
nice.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a good thing. Find a good woman, friends. Find a good woman. But I think it's going to be a great start out of the box for Cotton Bowl, and like we said, I mean, everything's going to be weather permitting. Where hopefully all that shakes out. But and I mean, seriously, with all of them, 37. I really think that everybody's really grounded right now to where firing out of the box is going to be essential for these racetracks. But and Bobby, we've talked about it a lot of times, more on the Saturday show, not so much here, because these people, our Monday audience, they don't want to hear it. Man, you got to be crisp. Let's go. Don't waste a lot of time with whatever. Racing. People want racing. The race fans want racing. And that's where hopefully all these tracks are going to be able to do that, because that brings them back through the turnstiles.
I think so. And I think you have to limit. There's certain times you need stuff at intermission.
Yeah, sure.
You need go-karts. You need power wheels. You need, some of that to kind of get the full experience, right? You have to have some of that. But when it becomes an every week thing and it's not as very popular as what people want it to be, The problem with the Power Wheel races is the only people that, at least from what we hear, the only people that really, really enjoy the Power Wheel races are the people whose kids have the Power Wheels. That's kind of a problem to have at a racetrack. You want to have that next generation come in. You want to have the kids start getting that racing bug early, but you got to weigh it. Do the people want to watch Power Wheel racing, or do they come to watch the big cars race?
That's why I go back to, and I know you can relate to this. When we were younger, the whole thing is run that show, get it done, and let's do some kiddie rides.
Rides.
Put those kids in those cars. Let them get out there. I remember the first time I rode with John Tolley, and he's like, "You want me to stand on it?" I wasn't really sure what that meant, and we came out of turn 2 at Longhorn, and he stood on it, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" I'm just sitting over there. Not that you should do that, but I really think that's powerful. I think that's something. I mean, the kids club was a really good thing, and I think when it gets to like with kids clubs and all of that, I would really like to see from all of the racetracks. Maybe it's something where they could all kind of co-op and do it all together with the dirt tracks in Texas, where you have a statewide kids club and let them be a part. I mean, empower them to do something with the racing. I mean, don't just show up and stand there. I mean, teach them different aspects of it. I mean, there's probably aspiring tech inspectors. There's probably aspiring pit crew members. Who knows? There may be aspiring announcers out there. I mean, teach them different aspects of this. Flagmen, flag persons. Teach them. Replace us. I mean, because we were talking about that the other day. I mean, at some point, you go back and you look. I mean, just chase racing back for 20 or 30 years. It's all of us doing the same shit. Somebody's got to replace us. Teach the young ones how to do these jobs. It ain't all about driving.
No, there's a lot of extra stuff to do at a racetrack.
Sure.
If you want to get involved, ask somebody.
Absolutely.
There's always a place for somebody to get involved.
Be on the
whether that
crew.
be on a pit crew, it behind the scenes working for the administrative portion of the racetrack. There's always something to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs, and I think that's one of the things where all the racetracks are always leaning towards the drivers of tomorrow. Okay, great. There's only going to be a select few that get to drive. Let's teach them how to do the other things. Let's go find the next Marianne Nauman. Let's go find the next Owen Pittman. Let's find the next Bobby Chaffee, Milton Hope. I mean, let's go find those people that are going to be able to carry this thing moving forward to where we can smile from up above or down below and say like, well done. Well done. I mean, our legacy's been carried on. It ain't just about driving because it's a select few, man. It's like going to the NFL. It's like getting drafted. Ain't a lot of people that are going to get to do that.
Not a lot.
Yeah. So I'd love to see that, where it'd be a great group effort with all the South Texas tracks. I mean, get in there and figure that stuff out. So I do want to talk about one of the things that had come up before, because we had discussed this, and I keep getting messages about this where folks are talking about kind of that disconnect when folks talk about the promoter versus the race promoter versus the track owner, and people just don't seem to be able to grasp that when we talk about the differences. And it's because Houston is the one that keeps coming up, and it's like Dean Baker does a really good job with his drag strip. And he's racing out there on Wednesdays and Sundays and Saturdays and all this. And it's like, why can't they run together? Why can't we have an oval track race and the drag strip? I don't know how many people have been there for a drag race, but when all those people show up to drag race and street race and money race, whatever they're doing, they're in the oval. And that's kind of the shitty part about the way that's set up. I wish that the oval was further apart to where you could have a dual race right there, but it's just not possible.
I mean, they do it at Mobile, but the facilities is better there.
But they're separated. 90. Yeah, they're separated.
Yeah,
they're separated.
They're separated. They don't share the infrastructure that they have. So I think that's part of the reason that it is possible to work at Mobile. A lot of places where you got to see it. I mean, back in the day, Alamo Dragway and San Antonio Speedway were two completely different facilities, so they were able to not kind of run separately but yet run together. You could sit there on the top row and watch your drag racing, and then watch your late models come race there at San Antonio. So it is not conducive to being a dual purpose facility at the same time.
Yeah.
At least referring to HMP anyway.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's no way to do it. I mean, because when you have those huge events, I mean, they got to park them somewhere, and that oval butts right up against the drag strip. So I don't know. That's a tough question. That's something that we'll talk to with Gina here at some point. But anyway, we're going to the hotline. Let's go to the Lone Star Speed Zone hotline, and we are going way up. And I just got back from Wyoming. I froze my ass off and everything else up there. But we're going to Turner, Maine, and we are talking to one of the badasses. We're going to talk to a dude that man, and that's the fun part with our man Phil Whipple, that has just kind of hooked us up here and really given us that northern exposure thing that we talk about. On the hotline, one of the badasses, it has been Revved. How we doing, sir?
Good. How you doing?
We're doing well, sir. How's the weather up your way? We always ask that because here in Texas we have no weather. It's just hot.
Well, we got 10 inches of snow, and then it changed to rain. But other than that, it's not a bad day up here.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I got to tell you, when I was in Wyoming, there was a day that we were out and about, and I think it was about 2 degrees, and a lot of people said, "This ain't cold." I'm like, bullshit. Yes,
yeah. We just got over a few days that were 26, 27 below in the morning.
Oh my goodness, that is unbelievable. So break it down for us. I mean, we'll talk about your legacy and championships and all that. How did it all get started for you?
Through my dad, basically. I basically grew up at a racetrack, watching him, and then never really even thought I would get into racing. And then one day he brought home a mini stock for me, and and kind of went racing. That's kind of how it all started.
I love it.
I like it when you start out in a mini stock, because that class is partial to me, because that's the class that I got started in. So talk about the state of racing up there in Maine. Obviously, we got Phil that helped us out a little bit, kind of fills us in on the gaps up there. But I feel like you guys have such a unique ecosystem up there that it feels like it's just now getting enough press to where people are finally realizing you guys got some pretty damn good racing up there.
Yeah, we do. I mean, the Oxford 250 right here in Oxford. Everybody in the country knows about that. So, it's kind of limited. We race from April to September, basically October up here, but then we got to take the winter months off. But no, I mean, during them months, it's basically every weekend somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean that is super awesome. So talk about the Oxford 250. I mean, that's one of those races. Down south here, we've got the snowball. But I mean, the more that I have learned, the Oxford 250, that is such a great race, and the prestige, the honor of that race. Just break that all down for us.
Well, I mean, as far as me growing up around here, it was always Southern drivers that would come up and win it. They'd always take the money. Then back in '84, my dad actually was the first one locally to win it.
Nice.
And then it just got national attention because it was a Grand National race back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You got everybody that's come up to try to win this race. Jeff Gordon back in his Baby Ruth days, the Bonney brothers.
Wow.
Everybody basically through Grand National has come to Oxford one time or another.
That's what I want to talk about from the old Busch North days. A lot of people don't remember that being the series that transitioned to K&N, and then as it went to ARCA and K&N, they don't get a chance to race up north as much as they did. How long did it really take for the racing scene to transition back to like the pro late models or super late models that you guys are racing now from what they were running back in the old Busch North days?
Well, it was kind of all one series basically back in the day, and then they kind of split. NASCAR got into it, and it kind of split, and that's when it went to the Busch cars, the heavier, the steel bodies. But we always had the super late model stuff around here, New England, Eastern Seaboard. So we always had that, with the Busch North, we called it. And then when NASCAR got into it, it just kind of got into a lot of the Cup teams, and they kind of migrated south, and there just wasn't enough North teams to keep it. They wanted to go on all the bigger tracks, and kind of when they started exiting all these tracks, the super late models picked up, and we started picking up all these basically NASCAR tracks, and and got a pretty good touring series up here now.
Yeah, for sure. So Ben, 10 past titles. I mean, talk about that. I mean, that series right there, and I mean to win those championships, to be, I mean, that's a legacy right there. That, I mean, you talk about the family history right there, but you have cemented a legend right there. That man, what an unbelievable record you have right there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously been very fortunate to have good equipment, with Richard Moody. I've been with him for 16, 17 years now, and it just we just have a good time. He loves racing. I love racing. We got a bunch of guys that love it, and we go all over the place. We actually went to the Snowball Derby a few years ago and kind of struggled bad, but we go all over the country basically and have a good time at it.
Yeah.
How different is the late models up north versus the south? You talked about coming down and running the Derby. We're predominantly used to the super late models up here. Is the late models that you guys run up there, is that more like a late model stock, a pro late model, or in between a super late model? Kind of pick your poison with weight breaks and stuff like that. What kind of late models do you guys actually run up there?
Yeah, we started off, it was the same super late model as you run down south. The same exact chassis, same exact thing. But the last 4 or 5 years, we've been getting them weight breaks for the crate engines, trying to cut the cost, trying to bring the cost down a little bit. So basically everybody in the Northeast, we run basically a pro late model because it has a crate engine in it. Mm-hmm. I see some tracks in North Carolina, some series there. They're going to go to the pro late model. But just it's the same chassis, same tire, same everything else, just the crate engine in it to cut the cost a little bit. But when we go to the Derby, you know, we put the super engines in and same chassis and stuff, and we go down there and run.
Yeah. So Ben, how different was it? I know because a lot of people along the Gulf Coast, when the Texans go race in Florida or Alabama, they say the Texans are kind of rough. So how different was it for you? I mean, because everything that I see up north, I mean, everything, I'm sure you guys get locked up and maybe pissed off at each other. How different was it coming to run with the guys south? Was it something where you're like, why in the hell is this guy leaning on me? Or was it a lot different or not so much?
Yes and no. You know, I got a lot of friends in the south that I get along great with, and and they're good races, you know, and they race you hard. They race you the way you race them. Then on the other hand, there's some people that I don't know. And get into that exact point, you know, why the heck are you racing me so hard on lap 50 of a 200 lap race, you know? Yeah. But I get a lot of that. A north guy coming to the south, it never seems to work out well. It's always kind of that grudge when they find out we're from the north and stuff like that. But you know, I mean, some of the best races that I race against are from down that way. So. I like going down there. We run North Carolina area a lot, but anytime that we get a chance to go down, we like to go down.
Absolutely.
So Ben, you were one of the first guys to switch to the Mustang. You've always had immaculate looking cars from the pictures that we've seen and got to see you race down at the Derby.
I love that number.
When you switched to that new body style Mustang, people were talking about the downforce was too much, and that's why a lot of people on the Chevy side decided to stick with the older body style than switching with that new Camaro. And you don't have to give us the speed secrets with the Ford, but did you have to change a lot to get the new downforce body working for you, or was it something that was just an easy transition switching to that new body style?
Well, actually, the Ford part of it came. We have a Ford dealership that sponsors us, so that's kind of where the Ford came. The new body style, we went to it as soon as we can get them. Just the car owner, he likes stuff up to date and nice and immaculate, and we just kind of switched to it. Really didn't know they were supposed to be identical, but I think there is a little bit of advantage to the older body. You can manipulate them a little bit more than you can the new greenhouses and stuff like that. But the tracks that we usually run on up here, you don't tend to see that much. But we run on New Hampshire Speedway, which is a mile, and that's where it shows up the most. But no, like I said, we just kind of went that route because that's basically everybody's going to head that route eventually.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me ask you about, speaking about immaculate-looking race cars, isn't that something, my dad always kind of prided himself in having a great-looking race car. And, I mean, I know stuff gets beat up and whatever happens, but, man, isn't that kind of one of those things, and I think maybe more based with family race teams? I mean, you want your stuff to look good when you're out on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, social media, I mean, there's cameras, there's pictures, there's people everywhere. Yep. Pictures and posting stuff of you, and just to have it look good, if it looks good, and then hopefully it runs as good as it looks. But just for that reason, there's so much social media now that you want it looking good when people post stuff of you.
Yep.
So Ben, let's talk about the ACT Tour real quick. Obviously, it's a a marquee touring series. Even we know about it down here from back in the day. Junior Hanley and some of them guys racing up there in the ACT tour. How much has the pandemic affected that? I mean, you guys weren't able to cross over to run into the Canadian races this year, were you?
No, actually, they just opened the border up just a few months ago up here. But
wow,
no, it's kind of the one. We only go to like one or two Canadian tracks now, and they held off as long as they could. But I don't even know if they're going to be able to go this year. But they put a great schedule together. I love running with them guys. It's it was 12 races, basically every other weekend, and it's a lot of fun. Those guys. They don't cut you much slack, I can tell you that.
So, Ben, you win that 2021 ACT championship. I mean, and you do it in great style. I mean, you come down to the last lap, you pass Shaw right there at the Haunted 100. I mean, how cool was that? And to keep the composure. I'm so amazed with you guys when you're out here doing this stuff. How crazy was that to win it in that fashion?
It was actually come down to a lot more dramatic than it had to be. Really, I was fourth or fifth. He was second, so it really didn't look like I was going to be able to get up there. And then just circumstances happened. We both ended up on the front row, basically on a green-white checker. And
wow,
I wasn't bad. I was pretty calm. My spotter is just like, hey, listen, this is for the whole year. This is everything right here. Whoever gets back to the start finish line first, and it was once they threw the green, it was kind of all gloves off, and I just had to beat him back is all I was thinking.
Ben, if they'd have told me that, I'd have spun out in turn one. I can promise you that. So and the cool part, I mean, first guy from Maine to win that. I mean, it's some prestige right there, man. That's some big stuff.
Yeah, what Tom Curley started back in the day with that tour is pretty neat. I've run it a lot. I just never run for points for a whole year. So to do that and set our mind to it and to clinch that was pretty cool. There's a lot of great race car drivers on that side that I look up to. You know what I mean? That it's fun racing with, and hopefully I can get a chance to do it a few times this year.
Yes, sir.
So, a couple more questions before we let you go, Ben. My question for you is, you barely briefly touched on it about New Hampshire. New Hampshire Motor Speedway up there, that's like the other than Oxford, it seems like when you guys get to run New Hampshire, that big mile track, that's y'all's Super Bowl up there. How much of it is it underrated in terms of the race fans up there? It seems like they're diehard. They go to the racetrack, 3 or 4 times a week. If there's a racetrack open, that place is packed. Do the race fans themselves get as much credit for being as diehard as they do up there in New England and Maine?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like the Oxford 250, there's basically standing room only, and I mean, there's people that camp out a week ahead of time, And I compare that to the Derby. There's a lot of camping, a lot of festivities during the week, and I say the Northern race fan, man, it can get cold up here, and they're standing right out there, cheering for you. So it's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat deal to see the fans actually back and packed and filling the racetracks up here.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to come see you guys because I have warm weather clothes now, so I will definitely be making that trip. So let me ask you about that. I mean, that's one of the things where we're here in Texas. I mean, we're so stretched out, and I mean, we don't. It's so weird for me when I talk to you guys up there because you guys race all freaking week at times, and it's like for us. Every Saturday, maybe a Friday, but I mean, there's so many racetracks up there up north where I mean, you could probably race or spectate every freaking day.
Yeah, I mean, I think they start on Wednesdays up here.
Wow.
There's so many tracks within a 3-4 hour radius. Of Maine, there's New Hampshire, Vermont, Mass, around Maine. That like there's a couple Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday. I mean, yeah, you could start on a Wednesday and go all the way through Saturday, Sunday afternoon and watch races at different tracks. So, and I know I've seen some fans, the same fan, 2 or 3 nights a week sitting in the grandstand. So there's people that do it.
Yeah, I love it. So 2022, what all's on the agenda? I mean, to back up and continue to add to this resume that you have. I mean, what all are you guys planning to do here in the brand new racing season?
We actually brought on a teammate with Joey Pohl.
Nice.
I've run with him a bunch of times for a bunch of years. He's a great kid, great family. Looking forward to it. We're bringing him on, building some new race cars, and hopefully get pointed in the right direction. Our super program has been off a little bit the last few years, and we just got to get turned around. Whatever we can do, and put both of our heads to it, and everybody work in the same direction. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Ben, this has been a pleasure, my man. Thanks for checking in here in Texas. You guys stay warm. It's going to cool off here, Ben. In Austin, it's going to be. We're worried because it's going to be about 28 on Thursday.
Yeah, must be nice. That's our high here for the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. How do you know Whipple? Whipple keeps hooking us up with you. He's around, reporter. He's in and out of the shops and talks to everybody. You know what I mean? He's a good guy. He's always promoting the short track racing up here, and he gets down to it. He goes right in the shops and talks to a lot of guys and gets the real end of it. Yeah, that's what it's all about. I've always said you keep bugging people till they say no, and that's kind of what you do. So anyway, good stuff, Ben. We appreciate the time, my man. Best
Sounds
wishes
good.
coming up in 2022, and keep killing it, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys later.
You bet. Take care.
See ya.
You bet. Area's been Rowe. I love talking to those dudes. Man, those accents. And Whipple said, great accent, and be ready. I love that.
And we're getting more used to it, right?
I know.
What's funny, Phil's got a great accent, but he talks so fast. Most of these other guys we talk to up in New England and Maine, they don't talk near as fast as Phil does. But but Phil hooked us up again. We gotta appreciate Phil and everything he does for the show. He helped us out in 2021, but he's already knocking it out of the park here in 2022 for us.
Yeah, he's a great part of the team, and we appreciate him jumping on here. And again, for him, and helping Texas racing. For him, there's no reason to do it for him. There's plenty of racing up there, but he has latched on to Texas, and we need all the help we can get. I think it's a really cool thing right there. I just love talking to those guys, and it really is, Bobby, unappreciated where, we do. You have the All-American 400 that used to be, and I know that it's kind of gathering its steam back again to where it truly is north and south, but and again, we've talked about the guys from up north, but even with Derek Thorne and all the guys from the left coast, I really think that we're going to be okay. We just got to keep working, and hopefully pandemics and all this other shit doesn't derail the whole thing along the way.
Well, it looks like everything's trying to trend in the right direction, right? In terms of not so much the pandemic, but there seems to be more optimism for 2022 than there was in 2021. At least from the beginning. Schedules came out early. People had their ducks in a row a whole lot earlier now than they did last year. You got a few straggler tracks that need to get their stuff together. When Owen releases his stuff, what was it, Christmas Day or New Year's Day when Owen released the two schedules? I don't remember. I think it was Christmas Day.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was.
Either Christmas Day or New Year's Day. Whatever. Anyway, but when that's the last track that came through and had most of their dates and stuff put forth, you got a chance, like we talked to the Kevins up at Rocket Raceway Park. They had a lot of infrastructure changes up there over the last couple of weeks and input it over there. Those guys are locked and loaded and ready. That's big news up there for North Texas racing. And so it seems like there's a lot more of good news coming out so far in 2022, positive momentum a whole lot earlier than what we would normally see. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's it. And the one thing there that, talking to Ben, his dad, Mike, 3 Oxford 250s. And that's one of those destination races, after being at the Snowball. You pencil these things into where races you want to go to. And I do. I want to make the 250 up there. And it's, it's at a point of the year to where they do a really good job where they schedule it. It's always been scheduled at a time of year to where the weather's more, it's better adaptive to being able to run that race. And I think that's one of those things where it would be really cool to go up and watch that. And, we saw Bubba Pollard, who, by the way, did you see Bubba Pollard? I think this is going to be a 2022 for Bubba Pollard where I think he's on one of those, I hate to say redemption tour or whatever. He parked his in victory lane this week. Did you see that?
I did.
He
So
did.
I think it's definitely one of those to try to come through, and it's definitely a rebound because last year he didn't run as many races as he wanted to, or that he was able to. I think this year he's got the bullets in the gun lined up, got his program back in order. Probably not to the extent that it was back when he was running the Seneca car, but he's got all the bells and whistles, parts and pieces there from Port City. So if there's a way to make that car go fast, they're going to make that car go fast.
Well, and part of that, as well, I mean, Bubba and the family there, they've got the Sonoya track. I mean, it's hard to stay on point with the driving when you start doing all these other things. And that's kind of like what we're talking about there with trying to find the next tech guy and race announcer and whatever it may be, where, Bubba's crossed over to the promoter side, and that takes a lot of time for him. And it's something that he's ventured over to do on the dirt track side, and I can appreciate that, because what he's wanting to do, and so many of us are wanting to do, is just to continue to grow the sport. I don't care about the discipline, and I would just hope that we continue to get away from the dirt versus asphalt thing. Let's just have short track racing, and I think that's where talking to guys from up north, like Ben Rowe, we hear right there where it's like, okay, there's places all around the country that are doing really well. We can do well too.
Absolutely. Dave Moody said it best, that the rising tide raises all boats in all forms of motorsports: dirt track racing, short track racing, NASCAR racing, drag racing, IndyCar racing. The key term being there, racing, all needs to work together, because we don't work together, then that's when the stick and ball sports really come through and hurt us. So it's good to see a unified front on all that stuff. It seems like it's more so now than ever. I mean, you got Roger Penske running the IndyCar series, and they're running double headers in Indianapolis between the three most popular touring series in the country: the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the IndyCar Series, all running their back-to-back day after day there at Indy. So that's a hell of a way that he's doing it up there.
And I loved how they did today, because I know a couple of years ago they were going to have their media availability, whatever it's going to be at COTA when IndyCar came here. Penske in charge, they did it today and tomorrow at Indianapolis. That's where you do that. That's where Penske's like, it's in my house. I mean, this is my tour. We're doing it here where IndyCar is based, and that's great. And I really think it is. I mean, we were talking in the first part of the show where we're with the NASCAR influx there with Chili Bowl. I mean, let's just appreciate this thing. And I know folks aren't going to like the clash and, whatever you want to call it. They're not going to say it's not a real race, but man, you're going to have a lot of eyeballs on this, and it does reciprocate to getting people to Cotton Bowl and to Texana and to I-37 and to Kennedale. They're going to turn this shit on, and you know what the first thing they're going to do? They're going to watch this race at the Coliseum. They're going to go in there and they'll type in short track racing, and it's going to boom. Google search and find you the closest short track. So let's support them. I mean, come on. I think it's going to be a win-win for all.
I mean, they got Ice Cube and Pitbull being in between the races doing a concert, so they're doing something right, trying to cross-pollinate there the best they can, especially there in L.A.
You had to throw that in. Yeah, I know. Well, I'd rather see that than Kane Brown or whatever the hell else they would do. One of the kids was home today, and she was watching this thing about country music, and they were talking about, I don't know, Old Town Road.
Florida-Georgia line?
Yeah, Florida-Georgia state line. And so some other thing about when Billy Cyrus was singing Old Town Road with whoever that was. I'm like, that's not really country music.
No, that's not Coke FM approved. That's definitely
Yeah, they were talking about one thing where they said African-American country singer. I'm like, Charlie Pride, but anyway, by the way, MLK Day, folks, that message right there, I mean, take that to heart. I mean, kind of put some of the stuff aside. It was really a great message that Dr. King had there. I mean, we're all created equal. I mean, we all have different opinions and disagree, and we don't like each other. But, somebody told me a long time ago, you ain't got to like everybody, but God damn it, you got to, God darn it, you got to love them. And I think that's what it's all about.
You always don't have to like each other, but you got to get along.
That's right. Right. Just get along. So like we said, coming up February the 5th will be that Big Chill Enduro 250 coming up at Waco with Heart of Texas Speedway. Great program here. We didn't get to talk to Gina. We'll do that later in the week. Stay tuned. I think we're thinking about Wednesday, and it'll probably be right here on the Revved Up page, as well as maybe on the Gulf Coast. We'll figure out a way to kind of incorporate and do all of that, because she does have some great insight. The Houston idea has continued to be thrown out, and I know there's some folks that are not happy about the amount of race dates right there. But again, that's not in her control. That there's a whole business aspect to that. I think there's been some Texas folks that have said, well, 3 dates, if that's it, I ain't doing it. But I can appreciate that. But I know it's tough, but I don't know. That's tricky. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Bobby? I mean, would if you had, if I had a modified or a truck or whatever, I mean, it would be hard for me to, keep that thing hanging around for just 3 dates. But where else you going if you're not going to Florida or Mississippi?
I mean, you're going to have to race it at some point into Alabama and Florida if you're going to want to race.
If you're going to
so racing a couple of races close at home might be there. I think it's more along the lines of the guys that I don't know if you're going to get any new racers. Mm-hmm. The guys that already have the equipment have it, right? And so they've already somewhat sunk the cost in. If you're a brand new racer, even if you're trying to break into a class like an eco stock class, you're looking at $2,500 to run 3 races. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of investment. That's just for the car. That's not accounting your suit, your safety gear, entry fees, stuff like that. So I think if you already have a machine, a race car available, and have it already, in-house, so to speak, I don't think it's as much of a hindrance, because they're going to try to run some of those races at Mobile, but we get that most people can't travel and stuff like that. Yeah. But you're not going to get any new racers at Houston with only 3 or 4 dates.
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, that's economics right there. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I will tell the truck guys, I mean, you do have on that, I think it's a June 4th event at OP, you'll have South Alabama Speedway, a great opportunity there to come in. There's some sponsorship stuff in line. You'll be running with the Wheelman Series, and that's something where, I mean, it could be. We talk about folks at the Chili Bowl where you get that one opportunity. I mean, there's another chance, but again, I mean, it's hard. I mean, because it ain't right down the road. It ain't right down the road, and the Houston thing is tough. I would love to see 8 to 10 days race dates at Houston, but it's kind of out of our hands, or their hands, or our hands. So we'll see what happens with that.
Unless somebody wants to pave one of these dirt tracks, it's not going to be changed anytime soon.
Well, I can tell you one thing, and I'll let Gina elaborate on this whenever we have that discussion. But there's been a lot of folks that have come to her with great ideas and concepts and so forth. But that follow through has not been there.
Yeah, money is the motivating factor for a lot.
That's the fun part right there. I've got a lot of good ideas, Bobby. Man,
of course you do.
We've got Round Rock Speedway out here. Man, dude, if it were up to me, we'd have racetracks. Have a racetrack in Pflugerville. Probably have one over there out your way. There's land out there. We could buy that and build a racetrack out there before they develop those. Yeah, San Marcos Speedway.
There'd be lots of places for it, though. They keep expanding out further and out, so you never know. Build a racetrack and the neighborhood will come right next to you. That's how that works.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. But we'll talk to Gina later in the week about that. But great conversation tonight. Hey, we freestyled it, dude. Not bad.
We did. We freestyled it on this show more than we do it on the Saturday show.
Thanks to Ben Rowe, true champion right there. One of those Northerners for checking in. Love those accents. Good stuff. We'll continue to bring you all that good content right there.
On for better week here. Here we go.
Yep. Here we go. All right, y'all, bundle up. The snow is coming, or the ice, or whatever it may be. It may just get cooler. Who knows? We'll find out. Great program. Continue to check in on the socials right here on Facebook, Revved Up Sports Show, at Revved Up ATX, at Bobby Chaffee, at the Rodney R. We'll do it again, my man. Have a great week, my brother.
You too. Everybody have a good week.
Absolutely. We're gone. This is #Real Race Talk from Texas.